There we go. Hi, Kristen. I'm good. I sound congested, but it's all fine. We'll take you through the conversation today.
Yeah, we're
Um,
taking one for the team here. But okay, so I'll probably cut that part out, but we could just start from here. But this is actually pretty exciting because I am from Connecticut, but living in Italy. And here's Francesca, Director of International Missions at Sacred Heart University, living in Connecticut and from Italy. So I thought this would
yeah,
be a great way for us to connect to talk specifically to international students about what Sacred Heart has in store for them.
yes, it is. And it is a small word, but it's great because, we're both here trying to provide the, useful information to international students looking at studying abroad. So very, very happy to be able to share some info that hopefully it's useful for them today. And like you mentioned, I'm from Italy. Here I am now in Connecticut, working at Sacred Heart University. I'm gonna just, also leave some visuals here on the screen, but I'm gonna try to sort of summarize a little bit, like, what Sacred Heart University is in a few words. So as the name may infer, but we do. We are a Catholic institution. We were founded in 1963 by, a local Catholic priest. However, we were also the first Catholic university in the country with having no religious order on our campus. So Sacred Heart has always been the institution, again, which has in its mission, Catholic values of serving students and most importantly, welcoming students from all sorts of backgrounds. Uh, but with a very, I dare say, liberal approach that does not try to impose some like mentality of like a right, a particular religious philosophy on students, but really leaving it open and make our campus a place where all thoughts or philosophies can come together and build some positive conversations for a change for the future. So this is the sort of I want to say, if that explains a little bit the mission and statement of the university, but looking more at facts and concrete information. We are also a university that, in order, I want to say, to facilitate this interaction between diverse students, we make sure that across all our programs, so no matter if a student comes for our nursing degree or our finance or computer science programs, but all our students are able to learn in a small classroom setting. So for this purpose, as you can see here, that's our average class size. It's about 22 students. The student faculty ratio is very good, but to be even more practical, like, we don't have lecture halls on our campus. So we do have a large auditorium. That's most of our performing arts students, or when there's like large events. I'm gonna say there is some kind of lecture hall that's in our nursing building, but mostly it is used for like some international, like, online conferences that our students in the College of Nursing do, and that's pretty much it. So even starting from freshman year, students are not thrown in some big lecture halls and with a large number of students, but they, from the very beginning, learn in a small classroom setting, and that's definitely what our students like, and that's how we see our students appreciating and where they learn well. So on the other side, I want to think of a student looking for schools. If a student is comfortable and know that that's where they thrive, that's because they get the personal attention, that can be the type of campus that may be a good fit for them, and vice versa. Whereas, we obviously know, we both know there are many students that don't look for that type of setting, right? They'd rather be in a very large environment, and obviously, that would be very different, a different campus, a different community. Um, you mentioned before that, right? I'm from where you are, but I live where you are from, and where you are from.
There's my state.
So on this little map, we try to, first of all, identify Connecticut because, mentioning New York and Massachusetts and Florida and California is very easy when we speak with international students, but Connecticut often, leaves a big question mark on students' faces because nobody has heard of it. So it's this little,
I always describe it as between, there's New York, there's Boston, I'm in the middle.
that's exactly what we tell them. So it's a small state between New York and Massachusetts. So Sacred Heart University, which is not exactly where the little heart is obviously on the map, but that's approximately, but it's much closer to New York City than it is to Boston. So Sacred Heart is in the town of Fairfield, which is a town on the coast of Connecticut, southwest coast of Connecticut, and it's about an hour and a half into the city, into the major New York airports. So this is something that I find very important for an international student that is looking at studying abroad. As well, think of how many international, intercontinental, even flights fly directly into JFK. It's already a big trip, a big move. At least you don't want to make it more complicated with several, stops and layovers. So getting to us, it's pretty easy from anywhere in the world, really. You can fly to New York in about, again, an hour and a half with a taxi or Uber or the airport shuttle. That's how students make it to our campus. So in that sense, it's easy to reach us.
And you're right on the metro line too, if I remember correctly.
That is correct, yes. So, for example, from our campus provides free shuttles to our students, wants to get to the mall nearby, wants to get to downtown Fairfield. Occasionally there's malls on weekends for several trips, but there's a free shuttle as well on a daily basis that runs loops to the train station, as we're very close to the metro north line, the Amtrak. So if a student, so that's the line for students who are not from the area, but that connects with the train. A city is basically from Boston all the way down to Washington, D.C., just to name like very, big cities. So students that want to move from Boston to Sacred Heart or, from Sacred Heart to New York, and then, down to New Jersey and Philadelphia, DC, it's all connected. So that makes it also easy with the free shuttles. Yes.
Yeah, but from what I remember from college too, even though I went slightly more north, but it's really easy just to get on the train and take the train straight into basically Times Square, into Penn Station.
Correct.
And then you're in the heart of New York City, because I know that's always a popular question of, okay, well, I want to have access to the city. So if you have a free shuttle that can take you to the train, then boom, you're in the city.
Yeah. And actually, coming from Italy, where trains are not necessarily the most reliable means of transport, it's very different here. They are always there. They're always on time. People complain sometimes when they're, 1 minute late. And to me, that's like, what are you complaining about? This is perfect. So that's true. It's very convenient. And I think that also what gives, hearing from students that, are with us, gives them that, almost a comfort of being very near the city whenever they want to go there and spend the weekends, for example, with their friends. They want to go for, say obviously post or pre-COVID era, but there's St. Patrick's Day parade or Thanksgiving. They want to go and spend it there. They just simply want to go to Broadway show, or family or friends from their country are traveling. They're maybe doing a vacation to the city, and that's what I've done too multiple times. And I have friends that are going to be in New York for a while. Like I may, it's easy for me to go down and spend the day or the weekend with them, and vice versa. So that definitely makes it easy, but it gives that comfort once again for the student to have access to that very easily. In an hour and 15 minutes, you are in Manhattan, but still leaving you in an environment that is not a urban one. If you're not comfortable with being there, or maybe your family is not comfortable with you being there by yourself, because Sacred Heart University, it's set in that more suburban type of setting.
Mhm.
So, we just spoke about New York City and Manhattan, but now remove that from your head because Sacred Heart University, it's not in that type of setting, right? We're not in a big city, but we're in that so-called suburban America. So we are the type of campus that maybe you picture in your mind when you think of a U.S. campus where you can, physically say where the campus starts and where it ends. It's like, this little village for students where they live, where they learn, where they practice sports, where they study in the library, where they eat their meals, where they do their laundry, where they do all of these daily activities, but without being in the middle of nowhere. So we're still in a
Mhm.
town that is served,
Accessible.
right, with banks and restaurants and the grocery store and shops. Actually, I just mentioned, let me see if I could, to put a couple of pictures here of just some
Ah,
snapshots of Fairfield here and there. Like the one in the corner on the bottom is the mall that it's a
the
little
Trumbull Mall?
humble mall. Yes, like 3 minutes
I
away.
shopped for my prom dress there.
Memories. But we have a shuttle, for example, that takes students there. And there's a Target there. So sometimes even they need stuff for their room. It's easy enough to get there and buy it. They need to want to set up their phone, their American phone plan, or their you want a U.S. bank account to have there while they are in the U.S. and study. That can be just a one stop shop where all these services are available to them. But also, like I mentioned before, Fairfield is on the shore, the coast of Connecticut. So along the shoreline, there's obviously, there's beaches. So over the summer, there's shuttles going downtown or going to the beach as well for students. So as these pictures may make a little more, real. This is what I'm trying to say. We have a town, we are in a town that provides services, but we're not a urban campus where, our buildings are scattered here and there in the town. We have our like physically delimited campus where students live and study in, but they're not in the middle of nowhere, nor by themselves in a large city if that's not the environment that they look for. And something that I didn't mention is the size of our campus. Right now we have about 6,000 undergraduate students. So we are also in that medium size range that allows students to be in a, I was saying that in that environment that it doesn't get boring for some, maybe for some boring to be in a small campus with, 800 students, 1,000 students. Well, maybe that's a little bit too small for some, but it's also not a 35,000 campus that may instead be too much. So like I mentioned before, I think we sort of at Sacred Heart University, place ourselves in that not too large, not too small, not too city-like, not too lost,
Remote. Mhm.
right, in the middle of nowhere type of
And then
place.
you stick to small class sizes on top of it.
In spite of, again, we're still talking about 6,000 human beings that live and
Mhm.
learn there, but they all learn in that small environment that so still allows to take advantage of the many campus opportunities that the school offers, and I'm going to talk about that in a second, while still receiving that personal attention, especially in the classroom. Not only because even the other services that university offers are obviously meant to target students on a personal level, but especially in the classroom where I may need help from my advisor. I may want to, stay in the classroom after class to ask a couple of questions to my professor. I know that I'm in an environment where I can do that because my professor is handling, a small number of students. If I go to their office hours, I'm not waiting in line for 40 minutes outside their office because there's tons of students waiting for the same thing. Um, I know that you work primarily with students from Latin America, not only, but I know that a lot of them are. So I thought that it was nice to at least bring up something about one of our student clubs, which is La Hispanidad, that brings together both students that are from Hispanic backgrounds, but not necessarily. It's mostly like the place where the Hispanic culture and language are celebrated. So that is one of, again, the many student clubs and organization, but I thought it was definitely one worth.
Definitely appropriate. Yes, that's wonderful. It's a wonderful photo too, and a great fire pit.
Now,
Good turnout.
the little logo here on the left, it's actually, that's what I took from their Instagram page. So if anybody
Oh,
wants to see more,
yes.
SHU La Hispanidad is their Instagram account. Obviously, as you can imagine, the past year has been a year of virtual classes and virtual events, and so it wasn't really much of any recent
Activity.
happenings, or I know that they do, sometimes do salsa nights, but they do some fun stuff as well, but not in the past year like everybody else. However, this is something that I wanted to bring up, and it's one of the most diversity and multicultural groups that are that exist at Sacred Heart University. And next to all these, something that we, especially as international admissions, are also very happy about was the creation of a multicultural center. And this is something that was created over the past 2 years, which really brings together the voice really of students. And both of these clubs, La Hispanidad, the Black Student Union, the Japanese club, the Saudi club, but also of the all the international students, and not only about international students, but among the entire population of any diversities, and either pretty much it's a place where they can sort of showcase their events. They often bring together, it's a place that brings together students and for example volunteer learning service center or faculty, and so it's mostly like a this hub for conversations, for events as well. But it's a very nice, I think, step that Sacred Heart University took over the past couple of years to make sure, or
More inclusion.
remind the students, right, that hey, don't forget that yes, we're a Catholic institution. They and some of you may have chosen us because of that reason. However, we are here for all of you, and it's a very, very, in that sense, open-minded and welcoming background. Now, I mentioned before some of the I'm going to talk about more of the activities, because I know that I have the feeling that sometimes we as universities, when we give our presentations, we tend to always focus on say the most important thing on one side, and it's like, okay, this is where we are, these are our programs, and this is our application process. But I always have this impression that if I am the student choosing to go somewhere, I really want to know what my daily life is going to be. And I think that often because of time or because of the academic setting where we're doing this presentation, we sometimes tend to forget this or bypass that information, which it makes up then, the whole experience really of a student. So I wanted to, if we have time, to show a little bit of the, again, daily life of a student. What do students do on a daily basis besides going to class? So we are a residential campus, and this is important as we do guarantee campus housing for our undergraduate students for all their 4 years, but we don't require university, campus housing for all 4 years. So housing is guaranteed, like I mentioned, and we have some beautiful, really new dorms. We just toured, as admissions office, we toured 2 weeks ago 2 new residence halls that were being opened this fall for the first time. It's one of those, I'm sure that if you're there too, like, we want a room. Like, I'm gonna ask for a room there. They're beautiful. They're large. They have this like showers. They're better than the one that I had. Like, Um,
I'm just looking at the
yeah,
double window in the dorm room. I'm going, I didn't have a double window. I mean, it stopped where that desk is right there.
yes,
You do bunk
it,
beds and that's it.
but some of them have this very nice, sort of lounge areas, with like, a fireplace. Others have like a gym or fitness center, like study rooms, game rooms. One is like, mostly our gamers use it, but it's just like game slash really movie theater that they have in the dorm. So they're really, really nice. But that's where, mostly our freshman and sophomore students live. We have a 2-year residency requirement. So unless the student obviously is from Fairfield, or even an international student has a relative in Fairfield or Trumbull or Bridgeport, and they're able to, live there and commute. So within a small mile radius. Otherwise, we require students to live on our campus for the first 2 years, and they're welcome
So
to
I
continue.
did actually want to ask about that too. And so is there, I mean, the commuting student population or local student population, how much does that make up the student body?
It's quite small, actually. It's mostly a residential campus.
Mm,
Of freshman year, there's about 94% of the class that lives on
okay.
campus. So
Okay.
this
Okay.
also means that
Definitely the minority. Yeah.
the majority of our students is not from Fairfield, is not from that
Hmm.
area. So they do, and right now they come from all 50 states, and 33 different countries. So there is definitely, students from other places that, like an international student, even if they're American, like they have no idea about Fairfield, they don't know Connecticut, they're not from there. Maybe it's the first time that they live on the East Coast. However, our student life office, to your point, to answer your question better, as a whole commuter student program in place as well. So the university, for example, provides locker rooms for commuter students, so they don't need to, bring back and forth all their textbooks, for example, or sometimes athletic equipment. They are provided with spaces they can live in, that they can leave that stuff at. At the same time, they do get involved, for example, in orientation. There's always a commuter student orientation session, and that's where they make sure that these group of students, even if again smaller really than the majority, but is aware of all the services that are also offered to them, even if they don't live on campus, that they can definitely take advantage, of any weekend trip. For example, all the student clubs and organizations, they can definitely, and they should get involved. And getting involved was really my next step to talk about today. Talking again, once again, about how the students really spend their time, right?
Hmm.
So with Sacred Heart University, I think there's already a wide range of opportunities the students have available to also just to fill really their free time, between athletics, so the varsity sports, but also club sports, intramural sports, performing arts. We have a huge program. There's about 800 students that get involved with our theater, dance, choir, band, orchestra programs, campus ministry opportunities, as well as volunteer service learning programs. I'm just going fast through this, but even though we could speak for hours, but
Yeah.
Greek life, as well as thinking of all the, well, I mentioned student clubs and organizations. That's something that I mentioned before with La Hispanidad, but there are, diversity groups. So there are academic clubs. You may just want to join your bio major. Maybe you just want to join your biology club and actually and enjoy your weekly meetings with students, going after articles, findings in the field, and discuss topics that have to do with your major, for example. A lot of fun clubs too, like the fashion club, the culinary club, and you name it. But there's really plenty of opportunities for students to get involved, and I'm happy to maybe dig deeper in any of them if you want to. But I feel like at least that gives a wide overview of, once again, all the things you can have access to by remaining in a medium-sized campus. So you're still going
Hmm.
to have you know, oh, there's the football games in the fall, you know, and it's a Division 1 program. So there's still like a, you know, big, like involving, you know, fun events without being in a large state university, for example. There's still, once again, you know, plenty of activities to fill your time with. You may want to join, for example, I'm thinking of one of the fraternities or sororities, and all of this. I like to stress it because I, when I talk to international students, you mentioned fraternity sororities, like first things that pop to mind are certain movies, and I always like to make sure, like, okay, not what you may have seen in movies. Like ours are very different. They don't live together to begin with, and each of the groups picks at the very beginning, you know, of their mission, or sometimes every year, their like a cause, and that could be, you know, we may have, you know, one group that picks Black Lives Matter, or breast cancer awareness, or, you know, any other philanthropic group. And pretty much what they do over the year is, you know, run their events as a fraternity or sorority to raise funds toward that organization. So that's the Greek life mean. But for example, that's also one of the places where a lot of our students, you know, make the lifelong friendships, and they do a lot of things together. You may not be much for that, but you've been singing even in your church choir since you were little, and even though you want to study marketing, you still want to continue singing while you are away for school. That's something you can do, for example, in the performing arts program. So the university already provides a lot of activities for our students to literally fill their time, as well as make sure they do not uniquely focus on that academic interest, but they like express themselves across, you know, the board with, you know, all the other interests they may have. And on top of that, Student Life organizes, you know, weekend trips, and they go like skiing or ice skating in the winter. There's fall festival in the fall. I know they organize trips to that. This often discounted tickets for the movie theater nearby. They go to the beach over the summer. They go hiking. So the university offers also these opportunities for all students, if they choose to, you know, do that over the weekends. And that is something that I wouldn't take for granted, because especially if you're an international student, you may have, say, your roommate that maybe on a certain week, maybe your roommate is from Boston, and on a weekend throughout the year, he or she may have to go home for the weekend for, say, a family birthday, because he can, you know, he's only 2 hours away from home. You're not, like, you know, you obviously are staying on campus. Well, you want to make sure that, you know, the already the institution you have selected where you live, where you learn, gives you options for, you know, that time that, you know, you may not always be, you know, with your friends. Because like I mentioned, you know, you may be with friends that at some point have the chance to drive even home because they're that close, and obviously you're not able to do so as an international student. So having these, you know, these options, I think is an important piece.
So wait, I do have a question. If I, you know, think about the different students I know, and then I think about all the different, I mean, especially just looking at theater and all the different outlets that you can also have too. I mean, what sort of student do you think would be happiest, especially coming from abroad, being at Sacred Heart? Is it the more academic student, the student who seeks more balance? You know, is it kind of, or maybe leans more in his or her faith? Or it's okay to be the kind of, I guess my follow-up question too is, you know, is it okay to be in the library on a Wednesday night really late, or is it expected more you're involved in one of the activities that's there, or kind of just how that sentiment is,
Sure.
if you have any
No,
insight into it?
these are all great questions. So I feel like obviously several, you know, groups of students may choose the university for all the reasons you have mentioned. You know, that maybe the student that for example, is, say, you know, has played tennis since it was little. It's not a is not an Olympic athlete, to maybe not be recruited by the varsity team, but if he has a campus where he can still play tennis at a club level, that's something that he wants to do. And
And Fairfield is also great for tennis, so we're in the right area.
right. So, he or she is able to combine, that passion, so bring that on while still, focusing on academics. And maybe on top of that, the family is also, happy with the fact that he's in a Catholic based institution where, okay, maybe like I said, we have students that definitely choose Sacred Heart because of that. Students that may have nothing to do, faith doesn't really play an important role, or whatever their faith or religion is going to be, but doesn't play really an important role in their life. So that definitely is not the primary reason for it. But they know, for example, that they are in the computer science field or in the business field. They have that idea, and they find that at Sacred Heart University, the College of Business and Technology offers, once again, small class size, several guest speakers, guest lectures, and with the small class size, the faculty is able to connect them and have them network with them, as well as being near New York City, and they can easily have access to companies for internship opportunities and later job opportunities. So that may be the main reason they choose that. In general, I would like to say that for how the university organizes itself, a student who would have the best time at Sacred Heart is someone who wants to get involved. Because like I mentioned, being the medium size, so you're always going to be in a so it's never going to be the large place where you walk around and some group may pull you in and there, like it's all very personalized. So maybe you start chatting with someone, like you want to be the one that is able to speak with others, like speak up in the classroom, not just be there unknown, or walk around the hallway if there's a table there with, say, La Hispanidad that is trying to promote one of their events. You are willing to stop and chat and maybe get involved. So there are all these opportunities, but they really all happen at a personal level. So if you are the student that is willing to do that, to do that step, and you're definitely are going to have the best time at Sacred Heart, rather than being the student who's more, say, only academically focused and kind of like keep it quiet, keep it very personal. Because again, I feel you're going to miss out on a lot of opportunities that university is offering to you, and just would be a shame, to be part of a campus, to pay the tuition or what you need to pay, to be part of a campus that offers you all the services, but not taking advantage of that. At that point, maybe that's, not the best match. So I would like to say that, yes, a student who is pretty confident with, putting, themselves out there, even question themselves, but, is someone that is going to have their best time. And because of all the resources I mentioned before, someone may say, oh, well, you know what, like, my religion plays, maybe I'm not Catholic, maybe I'm Christian but a different confession. Well, our campus ministry offers options for, again, all students, Jewish students, and the Muslim community as well. So, well, I want to find a place where that plays a role, and that may be the reason they choose Sacred Heart next to the academics, or it may be the sport, or maybe again theater, but definitely the getting involved piece, I find it really crucial for the student to really understand what Sacred Heart is about. Yeah.
No, that's an excellent explanation. Just because, I think it's really important just thinking, am I that type of person? I mean, should be questions that you're asking yourself of, is that something that I can really see myself doing? Would I be the person stopping by the table? Am I somebody who's maybe a little bit too shy? But I do really like the location, and this would be a really great option for me to explore. So that's why I just thought it was great that there's so many options. I mean, for me, it seems very supportive as far as, you have all these possibilities that are actually really hard to even find when you're a professional and you haven't chosen necessarily the city that you're working in. And here you have everything at your disposal.
all there.
Um, because the same thing goes with the religious sentiment too. You know, I know there's certain campuses in which you would feel excluded if you didn't participate
Right.
in mass, for example, on a Sunday afternoon, because normally it's in the nighttime that they're doing it and not necessarily in the morning. Or the same
That's
thing goes
right.
for party culture too, where you would be excluded if you are not, that is
Not
not
the
your
party
social atmosphere. So I'm
time.
seeing between the mix though of sports and all the other different outlets that are there, that there is a good variety. You just have to be willing to take advantage of it.
Correct. It's more the taking advantage. Actually, to give another example of that, environment, but we have a chapel. I think I showed a picture before, the beginning. It's a beautiful chapel in the middle of campus, but that has been used for plenty of not religious related activities either. For example, again, besides the COVID time, but every Thanksgiving, the university organizes an interfaith service for Thanksgiving. As you all may know, Thanksgiving is this, it's an American holiday. It has nothing to do with any religion or philosophy or faith. Um, but it is nice that they bring together, all students who, want to participate as a sort of like giving thanks type of ceremony. But like I said, which is what they call it. It's not really. I mean, obviously they do it in the chapel. They call it interfaith. So they bring in, the chaplain as well as the rabbi, as well as the Muslim community representative, as well as our pastor. So there are representatives, for different religious groups, as well as, student. Again, like I said, it's obviously because of this weird setting. It's nothing. It's not a rite. It's not something very, nothing traditional or so. But we have used our, spaces for also even typically religious spaces on campus for these just like gathering experiences. Or we had a very sad occasion a couple of years ago of one of our students passing for an illness. And again, the chapel and the whole green outside became like a huge gathering of the entire student community for just like a, in memoriam type of event. And again, the Catholic became the center of it because it's in the middle of campus and there's a huge green around it. But it's really left open, that's the right way to say it, to anyone and for different purposes too. So that is just another way, like I'm trying to thinking of examples, just to bring up again how the university really just like is open in that sense to the needs really of the community, regardless of where that comes from. And I know that something I just stopped here before on this slide because it's something that probably everybody already read while we were chatting maybe, but that's another question that I get all the times from students who are 16, 17, even 18, like, I don't know what my major is going to be. You guys have over 50 majors, but what if I don't know yet? That is also totally fine. Going back to that personal attention, our Center for Career and Professional Development works with all of our freshman students who haven't a major declared yet. They offer like the seminar style meetings in their first semesters, that's first year, to help them like identify what area of study and then later what major specifically may better fit their skills, their interests, their needs, their career aspirations. So we totally welcome applications from students who are still undecided and students enroll still as undecided, but we provide that type of support for them. Talking about support, let me skip quickly through this. There was something else I wanted to talk about, which is the first year experience. So talking about support, again, transitioning from high school to college is an experience for everybody, even more for the international students who's also changing the cultural setting. But all students are offered this first year experience program. So they have weekly meetings throughout their first semester to cover topics, about managing your time, adjusting to the different style of, learning and living, as well as, giving them guidance and tools to express any need they may have for counseling, being that, health related, mental health related, academic related. So in that sense, we want to make sure that, that transition is smooth for everybody. And like I mentioned before, on top of that, if somebody's even undecided, there are those additional services from our career center to identify their major and so on. Every freshman student has a freshman advisor on top of their major advisor. So everybody gets a freshman advisor, which is a professor. I always like to say that the students like, so it's a professor. It's one of the professors that is the person you can go to if you need to discuss any academic related, something about your schedule, something about a class, something about your major. Maybe you have identified your major and you're thinking about adding another one or adding a minor. And so that is the person you want to ask that to. And then their major advisor once they choose that. So in that sense, the services are there. And to go back to really what I started with, the personal level of the service, like the same personal attention that they get in the classroom is that same personal attention they would get from the academic advisor, from the career service counselors, from the wellness center counselors, from you name the office, but the that idea of assisting everybody on a personal level is there, across all campus, which is also something else that is very important that we'd like to stress.
Yes, the first year experience seminar looks great. Sorry, I was having a coughing fit for a moment. But this is really wonderful. And it's really important to know too, because I think sometimes you have an idea of what you want to study before you attend college, especially coming from an international landscape. And then you realize you have all these other options and you really need to work in a supportive system in order to make those choices of, would you actually double major? Should you pick up a minor? But this is a really great tool too, to just see that you're followed from freshman year on, because it's different just meeting with a dean, for example, once during your freshman semester. And maybe even if the school is small, you don't know the dean that well, and the dean doesn't know you.
Actually, you bring up a great point. I think I put it before here it is. This website of our career and professional development office, that's something that I was actually browsing before we started talking, but has on their webpage, which is that one here highlighted in red, an actual 4-year plan highlighted with, you can download both freshman year, sophomore year, junior year, senior year plan with little like steps outlined for students, like, okay, these are the things that you should focus on your first, like in your freshman year. No, it's not too early to talk about career and professional development. You should get started right now. And you can go to them and, get a meeting, schedule a meeting, for example, okay, let's start setting up a LinkedIn profile, for example. Obviously, get good grades, focus on your academics, but select a major. And if you haven't, come see us. And here is again, though, going back to what I said before, answering your question, you need to be a student that is proactive, that is willing to take that step. Because I said before, career is not going to come find you or stop you along the hallway and say, hey, you look thoughtful. Like, do you have some problems? Do you need help? Like, you need to be the one looking out, for these resources, because they are there. Just like the freshman advisor before, right? Maybe I'm thinking of adding a minor. They don't read your mind, but they are there. You can schedule appointments with them. You don't feel well, you need to talk to a counselor. They're there. We can guide you to them, but then you need to be the one asking for help. You need public safety. You need, the health center. But in that sense, it's better, like, if you are the student that is willing, to, again, take that step and say, all right, I'm taking the initiative. That is the student that really like I said, thrives on our campus and takes advantage of these resources that are out there, career mentoring, academic mentoring, all the clubs and organizations out there. You need to be able to say, all right, maybe I have an accent speaking, but who cares? I want to get involved, I'll do it. Rather than, maybe rely, because again, if that's not the case, I mean, a smaller community, a smaller campus where people, look out, they look for you, they reach out to you, because the number allows, maybe that's better, right? For a student who's like, no, I'm more on the shy side. Yes, I would like to, but I'm never going to say it out loud. Again, you're going to miss out otherwise on a lot of opportunities. But don't forget that once you step in, once you ask for help, once you get in any of these groups, then you definitely get that personal attention. But, like I said, we are always in that mid-range where, we're a medium-sized campus. So you need to be the one looking for help. And once you look for it, okay, great. The help is there. It's going to be one-to-one and it's going to be 100%. But we also need your, participation in, making the step and looking for it. So definitely, if any student feels that way, they're going to have a blast between, I have international students that started working as RAs, in our residence halls. And one where this guy, she was from Mexico. It's like, oh yeah, I've been in Luxembourg this summer. Like, like on vacation. I don't know, working. I was an RA, but Sacred Heart owns a campus in Luxembourg as well as one in Ireland. And I signed up for a job as an RA in Luxembourg. So basically I was there for 2 weeks while the students were doing the summer program and I was working as a RA. Basically I did 2 weeks paid abroad. But again, you went and look for that opportunity. Just like all the clubs and organizations.
Just like to become an RA in the first place, you already have to be.
Yes, absolutely. So yeah, I would, sorry, I'm not repeating myself, but it is important because
it's a really important point to drive home. I mean, obviously this is a major decision too. And that's also what I want students to take away from of, maybe I'm thinking about this early on. Can I work up to that point? Or what is really important to me in this experience? Because like I said, it's like to me, it looks like you're in a little city in which you have all these really great things at your disposition and you just have to be willing to take advantage of it. And like I said, you don't get that chance at other points in your life. So it sounds really, really great.
And it may sound rhetoric, what you just said, but if any younger, young student is listening to us chatting, it is true. I know we sound like old people, but time goes by so fast. And those years, but like you said, you're in a campus and for those 4 years, there's sports and volunteering options there, like right there at your fingertips. But once you leave that environment, it's going to be so much harder to continue doing that and look for that. Nobody's going to, be there and say, hey, you want to join our mission to Haiti? I'm like, well, no, you leave that environment, they're not there anymore. So,
but that's why I say it's important to have that exposure, especially if you didn't have that in high school. So that way you can make those choices in the future of, do I want to be more in a faith-based community? Do I want to be more, I can volunteer even if I'm working, but what sort of outlet do I want? And a lot of times it's that exposure that you get undergrad, in which you can make those choices in the future. So that's why I say it's really important. And I did want to ask too, as far as this slide with all these great photos, I mean, is it strange if a student has an internship during freshman year, sophomore year, especially over the summer? Or is this something that you're working more on building up your LinkedIn and getting your advising early on to get to that point?
No, that's a great question. No, actually, most of our students who, I'm thinking now, just by experience with internationals I work with, mostly in the business programs, but definitely most of the students that do take advantage of internships, they don't take one only. They do take more than one. And that is definitely something that our career staff pushes for. So maybe, again, depending on the programs, that may vary. on the programs, but for some students on the summer of sophomore and of junior years become opportunities for internships for sure. If the student is planning on taking more than one. I don't have direct experience with students taking in their freshman year, although I'm happy to, maybe do a little bit of research, for you as well.
No,
With
just to
my,
get an idea, do they volunteer? Do they work with a campus ministry? Are they
their study
making a
abroad.
lot of friends, so they're visiting maybe them over the summer? Are they going back
No,
home
their
because
study
obviously it's your first summer abroad?
yeah, there's study abroad options too. So there's a lot of students that
Oh,
may take
wow.
advantage of summer. Again, always keep in mind that COVID
Yeah.
is parentheses, but so we do have a campus, a smaller campus in Dingle, Ireland, as well as one in Luxembourg. So definitely these two are very popular with our students. Luxembourg mostly for our College of Business students, Dingle for everybody, especially arts and sciences, health sciences, and nursing. But we do have programs, on all continents, literally for our students. So, like in Rome, John Cabot University is a school where a lot of our students do their either short term or semester long or summer program at. We have students going to Spain, going to Australia. There's a business class with that works over with China for like Asian based business. Um,
And you can do that all from freshman year on?
you can definitely, yes, you can do it
Wow.
all from freshman year. Yes, so students can really, and I mentioned there's long and shorter, term type of programs. So they're, but as far as short, I'm talking about, the winter break, for example, they can go for the month of January, and do like, a 2 or 3 week, one class type of intense program, or over the summer, as well as, a semester long study abroad experience. So in that sense, a lot of students, spend the time like that. Talking about, the summer or the breaks, I'm thinking of several volunteer programs that do that over spring break. So I'm thinking of, there's one, I had this Colombian student who was the president for a while until she graduated of La Hispanidad also, but she joined this group, one of the volunteer groups was called Levántate y Camina, and it's based actually in Bogota, but with a chapter here at CHU. And so what they did all year round, they organized events and fundraising, and then they would travel over spring break to Bogota in a kind of like more remote community, and with all the fundraising, they actually made that materialize in that week with events and activities or actual material help, in a community in need over there. They did the same thing, thinking Guatemala, like our nursing students have a similar program in Guatemala as well. And I'm thinking of anybody that has traveled over the summer for similar programs. I cannot think of any. Wait, there was another one over the winter break. They went, I want to say it was South Dakota, but they did their their mission camp there with in an Indian reserve over there, and they actually work with the kids and the elderly. I think it was over the winter break, so it was a little longer than the spring break time, but that group traveled there. So the university, also offers opportunities, even when the classes are over, but to keep the students involved on a level, especially. We don't actually require any years of community service, but the majority of our students do somehow get involved in some community service activities. Very nice. But that's another thing that they can do over the summer breaks. Oh, did
No,
you?
excellent. So many opportunities. Can you hear
Oh,
me okay,
Chris, you there?
Francesca?
Can you hear me?
I
I
can
think
hear
you
you okay.
froze. I can.
Can you
Oh,
hear
wait.
me?
Oh, I cannot hear you. I just hear bits and pieces.
Hold on. Let me see if I stop my video.
Very bad.
No, I think it's
Oh,
okay now.
wait,
We're
you're
good.
back.
We're good. No, this is really great. What I was thinking of too is that I would think that if a student really has a great initiative in his or her home country too, and does want to bring a group of students who could be really proactive in that, that would also be a really great opportunity to start bridging and creating also for future
Yeah,
classes too.
yeah, definitely. We had a similar case with a, well, it was actually was a very young faculty um who well, she's married to a guy who's from Uganda, and she built up a like a small study abroad experience though for her class in Uganda, which is again just came from again a personal reality that she was aware of, that she got connected with and brought that up, build the program. But definitely, yes, with the volunteering and service learning group, being again so that medium sized campus, the voice of the students, definitely matters. So when a need is brought up, or a student brings up an opportunity like that, they can definitely work together and make those opportunities actually real experiences for
Yeah,
sure.
no, I love all of your stories. I love the anecdotes. I feel like it really brings the school to life when to see students carrying out what makes a difference to them. So I'm so thankful for all this insight.
I'm glad it's helpful. Well, I think that probably one of the things that was gonna focus on next, that was mostly, well, more than this, the in general, the material, right, that we want to receive from students as they apply. As an admissions office, regardless of the applicants being domestic or international, but we do um, review all the applications with that holistic approach. So it's not just, the grades and GPA that matter, but definitely like the whole story, the whole picture, and how we try to put together the whole picture, the whole story. So we do it by definitely hearing the student's voice. So as part of the application itself, either Common App or the Sacred Heart online application, there's always the essay piece is definitely where is that blank page, that the student can use to let us know something they want us to know about. That's how I like to summarize it. When the student's like, what is that you want to hear? What is, like, really what you want us to know about you, what you think it's important for us to know about you. That's the space, right? That's the space to use it for. We like to hear, to put the whole picture together. Like I said, we like to hear the voice of others, of adults and educators that have worked with the students. So, being that the guidance counselor, a teacher, teachers, a coach, but definitely, we like to, we give value to the letters of recommendation as well. We don't require, unless the student is applying as an early decision, but we don't require interviews. However, seeing the demonstrated interest from the student is important, and not just because we're checking a box, but because in that occasion we learn more about that overall picture once again. So having an interview with our admission counselor is another place where we get to learn about you more, and you honestly get to learn more about the school too. It's sometimes just easier, in an interview for a student, just ask your questions rather than typing 20 different emails back and forth throughout the semester. And maybe just chatting, you understand the answers better. If you don't understand the answer, you can ask, like, so ask for a clarification. But it's definitely a place where I find the interviews sometimes to be maybe more helpful for the student than they are for me, because the student really, like, gets an answer simply to their questions.
And would you
If,
be the one who is primarily interviewing international applicants? Is there
yeah,
a chance they get to speak with you?
that would be me. Yes, so I work with all the international undergraduate applicants, not just the group. Occasionally could be my coworker, but otherwise, 98% of the times it's me. So unless you're already sick of my voice and my face, but otherwise, I'm the person you would see, yes, if the student interviews. And And again, I also tell students like, hey, it's not a, we're not gonna, it's not a police like setting where we need to find things about you that, is gonna be intimidating. I know it's called interview, but it's really a chat, it's a
A
conversation.
meeting, yes. It's an
Right? It's
important
us
meeting.
meeting you and you meeting us, maybe for the first time. Um, and what we do, that's important as well. Either, even though it's not a required part of the application. And also something important that is noted here as well is that we have been a test optional institution for the past 10-ish years now, I think. So even prior to COVID, which means that it is up to the applicants to submit their SAT, ACT scores if they choose to. If they choose that that score is not gonna help them in the application process, then maybe their academic grades are definitely gonna reflect better the type of student that they are. They're welcome and free to not submit any standardized test score, and that doesn't affect the application review like negatively at all. We're a test optional institution. The submitting the SAT score doesn't affect not only the review itself, nor like chances for scholarships. So in that sense, typically what I tell students is, if you feel that wow, you're proud of that score you took, like you think that it is going to make an impression on the student, and maybe that is going to, again, every case is different, but say that because of that personal or health related reason, that particular semester or academic year was more negative than the others for you, and you really saw a drop. And so if we just receive your transcript, we're going to get a idea of course, there are all these other pieces. There's letter of recommendations where counselors and teachers can explain what happened. There's an essay where students can explain what happened. There's other, in the Common App especially, there's sections specifically where the students can describe if something has happened. But and maybe you work on the SAT you prepare and you got a really good score and you feel like, well, yeah, that would be the case where, yeah, definitely send it, because it is going to like, oh, okay, wait a minute. It's not that we all of a sudden got uninterested in the learning and studying, and no, something has happened, right? Or often I've had international students that come from school settings that I can think of. I can picture some in my mind that really came from school settings or school systems where the grading is particularly strict. So, with a converted GPA, they didn't appear as stellar applicants, but then submitted, maybe, like a 1280 SAT. It's like, well, okay, that doesn't sound like a terrible student there. What is going on? So that is another way where, hey, present it does score exactly, like get a conversation started, and gives reason, makes us understand better the overall picture that I mentioned before. And then other cases where I'm not a good test taker. I just get very under pressure with the time and the standardized form. I don't perform well at all. I am sick and I could not, sit the test that I registered for, or I did it while I was sick and clearly didn't go. I broke up with my girlfriend the day before, and therefore the test was horrible. Like, yeah, there's plenty of reasons why. You may just say, well, guess what? My application is going to look better if I don't submit it. And that's totally fine with us. And then a couple of things here just about the English language, the proof of English language proficiency. Here I list some of the, standardized English test scores, but a student may prove their English proficiency many other ways. It can be the school curriculum and obviously grades that the student is coming from. In some cases, the SAT score really when if they submit it, and the writing and reading section is actually particularly strong. It's like, well, clearly I don't think the student is lack proficiency in the English language. Maybe it's an interview that supports not only the school curriculum and the grades that we see that makes us think, well, it's probably the test can be waived, and the interview just like, confirms that the student, is more fluent than me. So I'm like, well, yeah, clearly we don't need a TOEFL maybe for the student. But definitely, again, we always like to have that proof. Like I said, sometimes just hearing from the student, like, oh, but I've learned, in English since I was little. And maybe we have a conversation. Yes, the student can speak very well with us, but it's always, I cannot prove any of your academic writing and reading comprehension skills just like by chatting with you. And last thing I want is to admit you and have you enroll, and then the first semester having your grades are starting in a, very negative way, and the advisor, questioning whether, well, wait, maybe you first needed to go through some ESL support in the first semester, and then, so we rather work these things out ahead, right?
And that's actually really important to point out too. And I forgot to ask it as far as ESL support, if that's something that's decided by a placement exam or by the proficiency test, or a student just knowing they want to take advantage of it, because I assume there's different services that they can work in
Yeah,
earlier on if they feel weaker in their English skills, especially if they just haven't had a chance to practice, which is what it is in many cases.
true.
Especially living in Italy here, I have to vouch for that.
Practice, yeah. So typically the test scores, I'm sorry if you hear the dogs barking in the background. Typically that. So the material that comes through the application, or, and then maybe, there's a follow-up conversation with the applicant where it's like, okay, so maybe, or sometimes that actually that cannot even happen because of the low level of proficiency. So maybe at that stage already, we inform the student of the option of a conditional acceptance that we can offer, where we tell the students, hey, listen, at Sacred Heart, we have our own ESL program on our campus. Like, we don't work with like pathway programs or a third party vendors, but we have our own like in-house developed basically ESL program. It's CEA accredited, so it's not like an everyday English type of program, but it is meant to prepare the student for their academic experience in the university. So especially the highest level, it definitely focuses on the students' appreciation of the classroom environment, or what participation is going to be expected from them between writing, between discussion in the classroom. And because it's on our campus, often our instructors invite the students to actually get in these or that class that is possibly the one they actually, that matches the major of the program of their interest. I know a lot of students that have gone through that as far as, okay, just do that. Let's go audit that class for the next couple of weeks. And then come back to me and say, like, do you feel ready? Like, just by looking at what the other students, how they interact, what is expected from them as far as, home assignments and stuff. Is that okay? Or you feel like at this point you're ready, or you want, because for us, you may be all good with grades and stuff, but hey, maybe as a student, you still need a little more support. So we can offer that conditional acceptance where our students can come and spend really as long as they need with our intensive ESL program. And as they're ready, we pretty much flip the conditional acceptance into a full acceptance, and they can start their undergraduate program full time. We have had some like one-to-one really but cases where we enroll the student full-time in the undergraduate program and added maybe a one ESL class. Mostly was about writing in general, writing or reading in their first semester, so to make sure that they could get started, but with that support, especially for their transition, for their very beginning. So we have that option of our, and being that ESL program our own makes it also easier, for us in admissions to just like reach out to them in their office, to the instructors, like, okay. And we always require, before a student is considered, done with ESL, we always require, 2 letters of recommendations from our ESL instructors, and definitely, that the students have the final meeting interview with the ESL staff as well. It's like, okay, I think you're ready, blah, blah, blah. So, and
You want them to feel confident. It's great. That's
That is
excellent, though.
important.
That's such a good resource to have. I mean, it's normal to be in a country in which if English is not spoken and it's not part of your school curriculum, to definitely be
Mhm.
nervous about that
Yeah.
and not to have full access. So the fact that that's even just a possibility is definitely something important to think to take into account. Awesome.
For
Great.
sure.
Yes.
And then, I don't know, again, I know that you, I think, I'm gonna maybe, comment
Yeah,
that
scholarships are always a big
I,
question. And actually, I know that you talked about GPA too, but just so students are clear, they do not have to convert their GPA. That is all on you. I always want
saw
that to be
correct.
evident because a lot of them are concerned with, okay, well, how's that going to look like, especially when it comes down to scholarships too, of what is a
Mm,
good GPA for a scholarship. But I mean, you can also always share more about this, but the fact that it is a holistic process is really important to keep in mind when even it comes down to scholarships.
Yeah, but it's true. A lot of students get concerned like, oh, so what do I need to do? Like, do I need to the conversion or do I need to obtain some kind of, equivalency? Like that, like you said, no, that's all on us. That's like our job in the admissions office. But every applicant gets automatically considered for our merit-based scholarships. Now we don't, unfortunately, we don't have any need-based financial aid for international students, but the international students receive the same amount of academic scholarships as any other applicant. So in that sense, the scale is exactly the same. And it is merit based, so we do definitely take into consideration, their transcripts, which still are, very important component, obviously, of the application, because the student is applying as a new student to the university. But like you said before, like you just mentioned, and I said before, that holistic review is what makes us, try to, get the whole picture of the student together. So we take all those elements into consideration. But students don't need to do anything, in this regard. Like as we receive the material and they go through the application process, basically when a student receives a decision for admission, almost at the same time, the student also is informed of the amount of academic scholarships that he or she was assigned. And on top of that, we do have some participation-based grants as well. And performing arts are really where this becomes important. So, like I mentioned before, the student that is into singing or likes theater, or maybe it's been dancing again since she was little, maybe, but parents are like, yeah, no, you're not going to, get a BFA in dance. We don't want you to make that your career, but that's still important for you and you don't want to stop. There are opportunities to continue that and receive grants for your, just for you giving your time basically to join one of these activities at Sacred Heart University. So those can be added. And something that it's not on here, but the Sacred Heart offers is a honors program. So that is really not something typical for students to apply for, but the admissions committee going through the review can basically pinpoint certain students there, with certain outstanding results. And that's purely, academic related. So it's really outstanding, grades, like level of, number of high level classes and or test scores in some cases too, to be presented for the honors program. And I mention it right now because the honors program has an attached it's a $2,000 grant that comes with it, so it's not really listed as a scholarship.
Mhm.
But it is actually another opportunity for students to also get a little extra money in their packet, on top of other benefits. Those honor students get some like discounts if they want to study abroad. They all get placed in like the newest residence hall, and obviously the academic related benefits, which are access to the somewhat like honors level seminars and classes, as well as being part of that living and learning community. So they all live together as well. But that would be again another resource, another opportunity for some discount basically. And And
Well, I mean, again, I know that students can definitely look this up too, but something I'd like to make really clear is that when it comes down for scholarships, you have your cost of attendance, right? Of what it costs to go to Sacred Heart or
Yeah.
to any university in the state, especially if you're a full-time undergraduate student. But living costs, normally you're going to be assuming those. I mean, your room and board, your scholarship isn't going to be covering that. That's normally, this is counted towards your tuition.
Yeah.
So that's why, looking at this is still a general portion of the tuition that would be covered through the scholarship. But just because, that the whole idea of, how much is the scholarship covering or what it's designated towards, that's not really what I'm getting at. But what you want to think of is when you look at the total price
all of the items.
of the school, really the living expenses normally aren't picked up by the college because that you're going to have anyway. It's really the academic part and you being rewarded for that. And that's where your scholarship is going towards. That's how I interpret it anyway.
That's true, but what I run into a lot sometimes is like, students or, several schools and university indicating the cost of attendance, split, like you said, between your, tuition and fees and, your room and board. If you live on campus, university can tell, okay, here's how much housing is going to cost. But often, we do have conversations with students that didn't think, well, not that they didn't think, but probably their families did, but maybe the student themselves, didn't. That, okay, wait, in order to live on a campus in Connecticut or mostly in the US, oh wait, there's the mandatory health insurance that I need to purchase. Either I have my own already privately, or wait, remember you have to buy health insurance if you're in the United States. There's no social health care. Remember your flights, if you're really counting the numbers, don't forget how much it's going to cost you to travel at least once and twice to when you arrive and when you finish, and if you want to go home for the summer, and maybe if you want to also go home for Christmas. So, and don't forget that
Your personal
books,
expenses.
textbooks, and like rooms on a dorm, they don't come fully furnished. I mean, they come fully furnished as far as the pieces of furniture, but they don't give you blankets. They even give you, your pillow and your little pillow sheets. Are you gonna be able to pack all your, winter boots and jackets? Because it's New England and it snows in the winter. So the months of, January, February, March are gonna be very cold. Like if you cannot pack that, you need to buy that stuff. Maybe you come from a place where you don't need that type of clothing, and well, that may be an extra expense for you. So there's often, again, way more to budget for. And like you said, the tuition, like price tag that the university lists on their brochures, but there's a lot.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Sometimes it's even just upgrading your computer or knowing that you have a computer that can be easily repaired on campus. So you need to stick with a certain brand. Although obviously in your location, you're flexible, but definitely as a student, that's fundamental, even when you have access to computer labs or, a computer lab within your dorm.
True. Like we have a laptop program, for example. So, to your point, students can purchase a laptop like through the university program. So that comes at, like discounted cost, and they can pay it was, in a flexible way. And on top of that, it's fully covered. So you spill your coffee over it, it falls off your desk, like you're gonna be able to go to our holy it's called the factory, and like thank God at this front, help desk for IT. We have it on both 2 locations on our campus, and anything that has to do with the Sacred Heart IT and hardware as well, you're gonna be there, you're gonna be taken care of, and you're done. So, but like you said, that's another expense. So it's something else that, if a student doesn't have or needs to upgrade to, like, adds a little bit of money again. But that, again, it made me think that that's another service that we have.
Yeah, no, thank you for clarifying that. This is wonderful. You've been
And again,
thorough. Do you have anything else in store for me?
you can tell I can speak for hours, but I think that most of sometimes like the visuals do a lot. Like these are some of the spaces in our West campus. So because we grew a lot over the past few years, Sacred Heart has bloomed. That's really exploded in terms of student enrollment. Like when I started, we're not 6,000. That was 5 years ago. It wasn't 6,000 undergraduate students. It was quite fewer than that. And campus was almost half the size because we acquired recently the former headquarters of GE, which is down the street from us, and now that's become our West Campus with all the business and technology spaces are. But this is mostly visuals that I put here to kind of like give an idea of the type of spaces that we offer for our students. And the campus itself is all focused on being like modern, really very safe. That's another aspect that we could spend time on, our public safety and all the tools that they have in place. It's really, really impressive. But definitely that how modern the campus is. That's something that a lot of families that actually come for tours like are kind of impressed about. Like, oh, we always picture a Catholic university to have all these like older and traditional buildings, but this is different because
Fascinating.
the spaces have been very, very recently remodeled and or built. Like this one here in the middle, it's a new recreational and athletic center that was only built and opened 2 years ago. And
Wow.
it's an indoor climbing wall, has a bowling alley. We have a D1 bowling team, so like they needed also space, but that's open for students to like rent. They do bowling parties. It's so nice.
So actually, I was just like trying to picture it in my head. So thinking of the campus spaces, are students walking? Are they using
Yeah,
bikes? A little bit of everything? Are there
good,
shuttles?
good point. Yeah, I wish my bad. I could have put like
It's
a
okay. We
visual.
have wonderful visuals. I'm so excited.
But so main campus students can really walk anywhere. Even though again we have shuttles, but really I'm thinking from where my office is, which is kind of by one end of the campus to the other end, the Central Liberal Arts, main takes me 7-minute walking. That's like how far they are. Now, West Campus, like what I just mentioned, the former GE property that is now our West Campus. So business, technology classes, College of Education, and dance studios are there. I guess practically, I guess someone could walk there, but it's along a very traffic road. So we have shuttles. So there's 3 shuttles between that as well. It takes maybe 3 minutes on the shuttle to get there, so it's very close. But we don't recommend walking. It's mostly because of a big road in between. So, but we have shuttles there. The Center for Healthcare Profession, you can walk there. It's on our Park Avenue, the main road where our entrance is, but there's shuttles for that one too. So typically our nursing or physical therapy or speech pathology students, they ride the shuttle between there and main campus. But yeah, all the dining halls. So there's the dining halls in these 2 locations that I mentioned too, healthcare profession and West Campus. But on main campus only, there are now 4 dining halls and 3 like cafes, like a Starbucks and Einstein Bagel. One of these 4 dining halls is actually a diner, like a Jersey style diner, which during the week is all open until 1 a.m. and 3 a.m. on the weekends. So even that provides another space on campus and a safe way for students that even after events or games, they want to go out and stay out. They have a place also on campus where they can do that. But yeah, main campus is definitely all walkable, mostly walking. But there are shuttles for buildings that may be a little farther out, or they also, because freshman students are not allowed to have cars on campus. Again, typically this is not a concern of international students, since they come with our cars anyway. But so the shuttles are there, yes, for all students to use, and obviously free of charge.
Awesome. This is wonderful. And you were so generous even to give your WhatsApp.
Yes, no, we use it all the time. I mean, between that and all, I mean, we're there to answer students' questions. So we know that often students, maybe the email is now their preferred way to communicate because they're still 16 and, they're getting adapted to that system, that world. So yeah, I posted here again my contacts. That's our office number where our WhatsApp account is. Our social media, couple of ours are there. It's not here, but like YouTube, that's a great resource. Sacred Heart University, YouTube channel. That's a great resource for, get more visuals once again. And especially if a student is not able to come and visit campus in person, it's a great way to just get somehow, it's not like in person, but get somehow a little bit of the vibe of campus, of people on campus, how they are, how it looks, again, in person is obviously different, but virtual tours are there, tours of the residence halls are there as well. So YouTube is something else that I didn't put here, but I invite students to search for Sacred Heart University there as
No,
well.
these are wonderful resources. Thank you so much. Grazie mille, Francesca.
Prego di nulla. No, my pleasure, really. And as you can, either you tell me to stop or I keep talking. So,
Yeah, no, I think we're more than good. I'm so excited. Let me actually